All right, try that again. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
We are on chapter 7, section 7, the totality of the kingdom. Whenever you deny a blessing to a brother, you will feel deprived because denial is as total as love. It is as impossible to deny part of the sonship as it is to love it in part. Nor is it possible to love it totally at times. You cannot be totally committed sometimes. Denial has no power in itself, but you can give it the power of your mind, whose power is without limit. If you use it to deny reality, reality is gone for you. Reality cannot be partly appreciated. That is why denying any part of it means you've lost the awareness of all of it. Yet denial is a defense, and so it is as capable of being used positively as well as negatively. Used negatively, it will be destructive because it will be used for attack. But in the service of the Holy Spirit, it can help you recognize part of reality and thus appreciate all of it. Mind is too powerful to be subject to exclusion. You will never be able to exclude yourself from your thoughts. When a brother acts insanely, he's offering you an opportunity to bless him. His need is yours. You need the blessing you can offer him. There is no way for you to have it except by giving it. This is the law of God, and it has no exceptions. What you deny, you lack, not because it is lacking, but because you have denied it in another and are therefore not aware of it in yourself. Every response you make is determined by what you think you are, and what you want to be is what you think you are. What you want to be, then, must determine every response you make. You do not need God's blessing because that you have forever, but you do need yours. The ego's picture of you is deprived, unloving, and vulnerable. You cannot love this. Yet you can very easily escape from this image by leaving it behind. You're not there, and that is not you. Do not see this picture in anyone, or you have accepted it as you. All illusions about the sonship are dispelled together, as they were made together. Teach no one that he is what you would not want to be. Your brother is the mirror in which you see the image of yourself, as long as perception lasts. And perception will last until the sonship knows itself as whole. You made perception, and it must last as long as you want it. Illusions are investments. They will last as long as you value them. Values are relative, but they are powerful because they are mental judgments. The only way to dispel illusions is to withdraw all investment from them. And they will have no life for you because you will have put them out of your mind. While you include them in it, you are giving life to them, except there's nothing there to receive your gift. The gift of life is yours to give because it was given you. You are unaware of your gift because you do not give it. You cannot make nothing live, since nothing cannot be enlivened. Therefore, you're not extending the gift you both have and are. And so you do not know your being. All confusion comes from not extending life, because that is not the will of your Creator. You can do nothing apart from him, and you do nothing apart from him. Keep his way to remember yourself and teach his way, lest you forget yourself. Give only honor to the sons of the living God, and count yourself among them gladly. Only honor is a fitting gift for those whom God himself created worthy of honor and whom he honors. Give them the appreciation God accords them always, because they are his beloved sons, in whom he is well pleased. You cannot be apart from them because you are not apart from him. Rest in his love and protect your rest by loving. But love everything he created, of which you are a part, or you cannot learn of his peace and accept his gift for yourself and as yourself. You cannot know your own perfection until you have honored all those who were created like you. One child of God is the only teacher sufficiently worthy to teach another. One teacher is in all minds, and he teaches the same lesson to all. He always teaches you the inestimable worth of every son of God, teaching it with infinite patience, born of the infinite love for which he speaks. Every attack is a call for his patience, since his patience can translate attack into blessing. Those who attack do not know they are blessed. They attack because they believe they are deprived. Give, therefore, of your abundance and teach your brothers theirs. Do not share their illusions of scarcity, or you will perceive yourself as lacking. Attack could never promote attack unless you perceived it as a means of depriving you of something you want. Yet you cannot lose anything unless you do not value it, and therefore do not want it. This makes you feel deprived of it. And projecting your own rejection, you then believe that others are taking it from you. You must be fearful if you believe that your brother is attacking you to tear the kingdom of heaven from you. This is the ultimate basis for all the ego's projection. Being the part of your mind that does not believe it is responsible for itself, and being without allegiance to God, the ego is incapable of trust. Projecting its insane belief that you have been treacherous to your creator, it believes that your brothers, who are as incapable of this as you are out to take God from you. Whenever a brother attacks another, that is what he believes. Projection always sees your wishes in others. If you choose to separate yourself from God, that is what you will think others are doing to you. You are the will of God. Do not accept anything else as your will, or you are denying what you are. Deny this, and you will attack, believing you have been attacked. But see the love of God in you, and you will see it everywhere, because it is everywhere. See his abundance in everyone, and you will know that you are in him, with them. They are part of you as you are part of God. You are as lonely without understanding this as God himself is lonely when his sons do not know him. The peace of God is understanding this. There is only one way out of the world's thinking, just as there was only one way into it. Understand totally by understanding totality. Perceive any part of the ego's thought system as wholly insane, wholly delusional, and wholly undesirable. And you have correctly evaluated all of it. This correction enables you to perceive any part of creation as wholly real. wholly perfect, and wholly desirable. Wanting this only, you will have this only. And giving this only, you will be only this. The gifts you offer to the ego are always experienced as sacrifices, but the gifts you offer to the kingdom are gifts to you. They will always be treasured by God because they belong to his beloved sons, who belong to him. All power and glory are yours because the kingdom is his. Welcome, Cynthia. Good to have you here. Boy, they had some pretty profound statements in there, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that jumped out to me is in paragraph 9, sentence, I guess it's sentence 4. Projection always sees your wishes in others. And, you know, I remember many times hearing Ken Wapnick on the CDs that I have talk about projection makes perception. And he said, you know, that's so important. You should just make a little sticker and put it on your dashboard. So I did that. And over the years, I had several mechanics ask me, you know, while they were selling me tires or whatever, you know, what does that mean? Imagine yourself standing in a busy room with other people and trying to focus. So I just would tell them a little bit about, well, check out A Course in Miracles and you'll find out. But anyway, getting back to the point, when we project things outside of ourself, when we see that there is another world, a separate world that seems to be real. I mean, I can touch these things and pick them up, and I can smell my coffee and taste it, all that good stuff. But that's just the senses, and the senses can lie. I mean, there could be somebody who tastes coffee and go, "Blah, it's horrible. Why do you drink that?" I mean, it's so projecting it though, and seeing something in somebody else that maybe you envy or you esteem or whatever, and you think I've got to be that. Um, you know, it's like it's something you can't do. You could copy them and all that, but would that be real? There's there's definitely a better way, and seeing that we have to be what he's talking about here, rather than just reading this as some words and it doesn't make any sense. It should resonate with all of us. It should bring about an inner knowing that we, well, it's how we were created, and you know, it's just stilling ourselves enough to know. And I don't mean to sound like I'm preaching. So this is mostly for Tim. So anyway, I'll be quiet, let somebody else get in.
Oh, that's great, and I think in so many ways, right? We're in this illusion. We've given it all the meaning it has for us, and we've invested in it, right? And it'll last as long as we value it.
Yeah.
So, there's a definite call to action, yet without understanding the truth of who we are, like we don't want to give up this investment in the illusion for
Mm.
nothing, right? Because the ego is going to say, well, if you do that, you'll disappear. And the truth is, yes, the ego will disappear, right? If we give up all the investment that we have in the illusion. But I think the beauty is that the power of our truth is so great that we're almost afraid to put our toe in the water because we're like, what's going to happen if I feel that much power all at once, that much love all at once, that much joy all at once? How is that going to feel? Right. And I think that it's it's really interesting how it's stated in here, because we know it's an all or nothing thing, right? We can't be partly in the illusion and partly
Right.
in the mind of God, right? We're either all in or we're all out. So it's just that decision. It's kind of like if somebody was trying to get you to jump out of a plane, right? And they said, "Come on, you have to jump out of the plane." You're like, "Why would I want to do that? That's crazy. I don't want to jump out of a plane." No, you're going to love it, you know? And it's kind of like it's a new thing, right? Like, how is that going to be if I invest all of my thoughts into this power of the one mind of God? And I think that the fun thing is we get glimpses of it, right? Like we get those moments. I know, Tim, you've shared the beauty of those moments and that feeling of being in that glory of the presence of that one mind of God, right? It's exhilarating beyond imagination, right? Because
Yeah, there's no
it
words
has,
really.
yeah, it has nothing to do with the ego, right?
Right. So why am
Yeah.
I back in this thing?
Right? Right. That's a good question.
Yeah, why do I keep dipping my toes back in the pool and sliding in?
Yeah.
It's when I know, and I've been listening to some other things online to do with the course, and um it was really good because I could see myself in the same struggle as these people were, that we're always making decisions on such a surface level. Last night I had something come up with a loved one that um, they thought I had, and I didn't even know this. I had taken a box off of a Christmas present. Well, I never did, but they were all upset that I did, and I was using this. I didn't even know it's a Christmas present. I was using that to illuminate, some stuff on a hutch that was, part of a Christmas display. And this person saw it and got all, how could you? And I said, well, it was just sitting in the box and I wanted to make this. And it was like, it was like the response was like I had just decided to launch a nuclear attack against a foreign country someplace. I mean, yeah, that's a little bit much, but if you got to either have your toes all out of the water or not.
Yeah.
We had a teacher, Denise and I, oh my God, 40 something years ago with a course, and he used to say, his name is Harold Cole. I've spoken of him many times. And he used to say there is no difference between going to church, kicking a dog, and killing someone. And 20 something of us would look at each other or not and just kind of go, oh my God, what the hell is he talking about? But now we have a sense that we're indestructible, really. The ego thing, this body we've created and so forth, definitely going to go away. And we can come back and can do this again or whatever. But I'm really getting tired of you know, kind of keeping one foot in the pool and the ego pool and kind of go, water's too cold.
Yeah.
Whatever. Well,
And
I'll
I
be
love
quiet.
I love too that it says every attack is a call for his patience, since his patience can translate attack into blessing,
Hmm.
right? So I feel like too, when we're in these situations where we feel attacked, It's like, how are we responding? Do we respond as if we were attacked? Or do we respond with blessing and with love and realize that it's just all part of the illusion that we're projecting and investing in and creating?
Mm.
It just simplifies it, I think, when you can keep yourself in that awareness of knowing that, okay, am I choosing to invest in the illusion, or am I choosing now to align my mind with God, with the mind of love?
I heard a quote just yesterday, and the person who was quoted has the last name of Warren. And since I do, I decided I can share the quote. And the quote was basically that in every test, there lies a testimony. And in every mess, you surely can see the message. Like, and it's just so, all those plays on words, but it really matters. It's like in the short form, in the narrowness of our perception, we only see part of it. We see the problem and not the solution.
Yeah.
So again, when you are whole and when you see things from that broad, inclusive perspective, you see that they're one and the same. So it's no longer a problem. It's just an experience toward greater wisdom.
Well said, Mary. I love that.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah.
We want to say something to Tim, what you said about why do we keep, you said it a few times. In fact, I think the last time you were here, we were talking about the same thing, and it is like that, isn't it? It's like we all have our kind of perpetual questions. It's like, why, sick and tired of sick and tired of pain, sick and tired of misery. Why not just, we know it's possible to just be in peace and joy and eternal, we are in peace and joy and eternal happiness right now, love. And we were just thinking, it's like, it feels a lot like an addiction. It's like being addicted to, it's like there's just like, we could leave the pain behind, but we just want to try it one more time. We just want to have a little bit more agony before we make a decision finally to not do that anymore. And our experience certainly is one of, we do that, and then it's like, oh, hang on, no, we didn't mean this. We didn't mean this kind of pain. This is horrible. We don't want this. And it's like, but we chose it, and we did. We chose it again. We're just glad that we're sitting here today making this decision, and making this decision every day to turn our will, to turn our sight towards the Holy Spirit instead of the ego.
Right.
And we will be given opportunities to practice that, and we are.
Yeah, it's so awesome in what you said, that we are shown all these things. We live all these experiences, and yet we want one more piece of proof, or one more exception to the rule, or one more whatever, instead of surrendering to the ultimate truth of who we really are. It's so interesting how fear basically keeps us rooted in the habit of something that we know we really don't want, and yet to break that cycle, we're afraid of the fear itself. So it's just so fascinating. But we are shown in so many ways by so many examples how things are. And now that we're coming to the consciousness that it really is available to everyone, and not just these chosen few who accomplish amazing feat, it's for all of us, anytime we choose it. and permanently, not just for the occasion that we experience it. But we have to choose that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I
Right.
will assure you, it is a complete shift. Once you're there, there's really nothing in this world that's appealing. It's I
Yeah.
don't know, tinsel or something, it's like
Yeah.
you could just tell it's just very surfacey, but yet look at us, we keep investing. And my God, I could beat myself up. Tim, how
But
long has it been? 50 years now? You
But
know?
Tim, when you say that, it's like, yeah, we remember like one of the peak experiences where we saw our entire existence was like a puff of smoke. It was that meaningful. It was like a puff of smoke that just away in the wind. Our entire
Yeah,
life, everything,
that's a
and
good way to put it.
and knowing that, it's like we can enjoy this life in a different way. I don't know. Hang on. Those aren't the right words. But there's a looseness with which we hold life that was not there before as we have these experiences. We've all had them. And like, yeah, we sort of gradually, life just becomes more and more playful. And even in the midst of despair, and I mean, since I had experiences like that was like the early 2000s when I was having those kind of peak experiences most of the time. And since then, my God, I've been to the brink of insanity and, been in really horrible, awful places. It's part of awakening, it seems, for most of us. And that's something I've never been able to convey to anybody except people in rooms like this, that even when I've been in deep, deep despair, there's still that knowing that it's not really real. There's still that difference, which we didn't have before. I mean, it talks, doesn't it, in the course somewhere about it says like about forgetting your body entirely, and it says, every time you don't have to do it for long. It's like you don't have to just disappear completely and the universe disappear. You don't have to do it for long. You forget your body entirely and the world disappears, but then it comes back, and every time it comes back, we can't remember the exact quote, but you have a different relationship with it. And that certainly seems to be the truth.
Yeah. Well
Yeah,
said. I
I
love
like
that.
it.
I love where you said it's more playful, right? Because even in the course, it says it's that moment we forgot to laugh. We can look at it from a different perspective and understand, because we've been doing the lessons and we practice Course in Miracles, we can understand what it is. And then we can make a conscious choice. Do I want to dive back into this, or do I just want to observe and know that this too shall pass and that this is not real, and align my mind with love? Because at every moment we have that choice, right? Again and again and again. Align with love, align with fear, align with love, align with fear. Thousands of times a day, right? So it's just being conscious of it, right? And as we understand more and more about the matrix, then we're more and more conscious, and we give ourselves more and more opportunity to make that conscious choice of alignment.
We were talking to Sunny before the meeting, and it's funny now. At the time it wasn't. It's like they said something which implied to us that they were kind of saying that we were coming from the ego more so than they were. Okay. And it was so frustrating because we were so offended by that. And we knew that it was the ego who was offended by that. And yet we were in that offense. And it was just hilarious. And we said, okay, we can't talk anymore. We need to meditate. And so we sat and meditated. And then we actually, we managed to let go, relinquish the ego again, and then it's like, all of that fear and frustration and offense and anger just dissipates. But yeah, it's a horrible place to be. It's like my ego's so offended at being called egotistical, and we can't defend
know.
ourselves because it's only the ego that wants to defend itself. It was horrible.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
great.
that's funny.
I love that.
Oh, I love to thank it for its service. It's like you may have done a great service for me in the past. And sometimes I let myself go down that road of remembering how that defensiveness may have been helpful, but in my present consciousness, it's no longer necessary. And I thank it and pat it on the head and tell it to go enjoy the video game it was playing or whatever, and just send it on its way. And with that, all of the other stuff for me goes with it. It's like remembering how I used to be in the past, and then the gratitude comes in for how far I've come now, that in the space of a breath, the whole process, it takes me far longer to explain it than it takes now to experience.
Yes, try
And
to
so the reptilian brain is here for our experiencing here. That sense of duality and separation are here for our very valuable experiences, but the ultimate is to help us want to know that we are awakened as whole and complete and true.
Yeah, that's where I want to be all the time. Actually, time has nothing to do with it at that point.
All right, shall we?
What?
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're just laughing because we could just sit and talk, couldn't we? We are supposed to be reading the course as well, aren't we? So let's do that. Yeah.
We'll try to get one more section in if we're done talking about this section. But I don't ever like to cut people off because, you know, this is all relevant to what we're doing here, right? So if everyone is complete right now, I can go ahead and we'll read the next section. I'm sure there will be more conversation. The unbelievable belief. We have said that without projection, there can be no anger. But it is also true that without extension, there can be no love. These reflect a fundamental law of the mind, and therefore, one that always operates. It is the law by which you create and were created. It is the law that unifies the kingdom and keeps it in the mind of God. To the ego, the law is perceived as a means of getting rid of something it does not want. To the Holy Spirit, it is the fundamental law of sharing, by which you give what you value in order to keep it in your mind. To the Holy Spirit, it is the law of extension. To the ego, it is the law of deprivation. It therefore produces abundance or scarcity, depending on how you choose to apply it. This choice is up to you, but it is not up to you to decide whether or not you will utilize the law. Every mind must project or extend, because that is how it lives, and every mind is life. The ego's use of projection must be fully understood before the inevitable association between projection and anger can be finally undone. The ego always tries to preserve conflict. It is very ingenious in devising ways that seem to diminish conflict, because it does not want you to find conflict so intolerable that you will insist on giving it up. The ego, therefore, tries to persuade you that it can free you of conflict, lest you give the ego up and free yourself. Using its own warped version of the laws of God, the ego utilizes the power of the mind only to defeat the mind's real purpose. It projects conflict from your mind to other minds in an attempt to persuade you that you have gotten rid of the problem. There are two major errors involved in this attempt. First, strictly speaking, conflict cannot be projected because it cannot be shared. Any attempt to keep part of it and get rid of another part does not really mean anything. Remember that a conflicted teacher is a poor teacher and a poor learner. His lessons are confused, and their transfer value is limited by his confusion. The second error is the idea that you can get rid of something you do not want by giving it away. Giving it is how you keep it. The belief that by seeing it outside you, you have excluded it from within is a complete distortion of the power of extension. That is why those who project are vigilant for their own safety. They're afraid that their projections will return and hurt them. Believing they have blotted their projections from their own minds, they also believe their projections are trying to creep back in. Since the projections have not left their mind, they're forced to engage in constant activity in order not to recognize this. You cannot perpetuate an illusion about another without perpetuating it about yourself. There's no way out of this because it's impossible to fragment the mind. To fragment is to break into pieces, and mind cannot attack or be attacked. The belief that it can, an error the ego always makes, underlies its whole use of projection. It does not understand what mind is, and therefore does not understand what you are. Yet its existence is dependent on your mind, because the ego is your belief. The ego is a confusion in identification. Never having had a consistent model, it never developed consistently. It is the product of the misapplication of the laws of God by distorted minds that are misusing their power. Do not be afraid of the ego. It depends on your mind, and as you made it by believing in it. So you can dispel it by withdrawing belief from it. Do not project the responsibility for your belief in it onto anyone else, or you will preserve the belief. When you are willing to accept sole responsibility for the ego's existence, you will have laid aside all anger and all attack, because they come from an attempt to project responsibility for your own errors. But having accepted the errors as yours, do not keep them. Give them over quickly to the Holy Spirit to be undone completely, so that all their effects will vanish from your mind and from the sonship as a whole. The Holy Spirit will teach you to perceive beyond your belief, because truth is beyond belief, and his perception is true. The ego can be completely forgotten at any time, because it is a totally incredible belief, and no one can keep a belief he has judged to be unbelievable. The more you learn about the ego, the more you realize that it cannot be believed. The incredible cannot be understood because it is unbelievable. The meaninglessness of perception based on the unbelievable is apparent, but it may not be recognized as being beyond belief because it is made by belief. The whole purpose of this course is to teach you that the ego is unbelievable and will forever be unbelievable. You who made the ego by believing the unbelievable cannot make this judgment alone. By accepting the at-one-ment for yourself, you are deciding against the belief that you can be alone, thus dispelling the idea of separation and affirming your true identification with the whole kingdom as literally part of you. This identification is as beyond doubt as it is beyond belief. Your wholeness has no limits, because being is infinity. There was something in here we read that I don't remember reading before, because I probably, well, because I know I wasn't at this level of accepting and percepting. Where was it? Okay, so it was paragraph 5. I think it was the last sentence. It said, but having accepted the errors as yours, do not keep them. Give them over quickly to the Holy Spirit to be undone completely, so that all their effects will vanish from your mind and from the sonship as a whole. That is really profound. Right? So not only does it vanish from your mind, it vanishes from the sonship as a whole, which of course makes perfect sense, because we are all one and all minds are joined. But it also goes back to, there is only one mind, and it only takes one to heal the sonship. Right? You can't do it without your brother, because I think you have to recognize that your brother is you. But to undo the error in your mind is all it takes. And once you undo that error and hand it over, it undoes it in all minds, which is like,
Well,
I love that.
it undoes it for all, because you no longer see it. You no longer see it in yourself, and then you no longer see it in anyone else. And then it gives by extension, the opportunity for others to know that they can join into that and experience it themselves. And the more we do that, the more.
Yeah. But it's interesting that it says, so that all their effects will vanish from your mind and from the sonship as a whole. I mean, I don't know if I ever really acknowledged that before. I know I've read it many times, but I just thought that was cool.
Yeah. I had underlined it at some point in the past, but looking at it now, that doesn't mean I really understood it, because it's like what's coming up for me is there's still, let's say we wake up, us that are on this call fully wake up and become a Christ. When Christ was here, I mean, you had a lot of disbelievers that never did, I guess they've come around since, some of them, but it's probably some of them incarnated a dozen times and still struggling. I'm struggling. So I have a hard time, like, okay, it's gone from me, and I understand what you're saying, since I'm a part of all of you and there's no separation. It's just like I go to the jellyfish analogy, and imagine there's 7 billion cells in a jellyfish, if you will. So it's all connected. So, so I guess from that standpoint, if I get that clarity and the bell rings, the ability to hear that bell is everywhere. The bell of forgiveness.
Can I say something? Like, paragraph 2 really reminded us of the thing that just happened just now with us and Sunny. The ego always tries to preserve conflict. When I sat down to meditate, my mind wanted to, figure out what had happened, figure out what to say to them, figure out how to solve it, figure out how to, analyze what had gone on for me, so that I could, whatever, and talk to them. And then it's just like, hang on a minute, we just this is all the ego, as it's saying here, tries to devising ways that seem to diminish conflict, and also projecting the conflict from our mind onto the other mind. It's like thinking, oh yeah, they did this and they shouldn't have done this, and all of that. And the way out of that, it feels so hard to do, but it's like the way out of that is just to realize that it's all the ego, and that nothing good will come of any of that thought. And then it's just like, yeah, give it to the Holy Spirit. And then it's just like stops. It's like it's not resolved because there is no resolution. The problems that the ego produces, they have no resolution. The only way out of them is to just stop engaging with them. And that can seem like spiritual bypassing, which is another thing altogether. But I do know the difference today. And it's like, no, just let it go. It's the ego, and we're not going there. And that the point of why we're saying this now is that afterward, we came back to the meeting that we were in with Sunny, and first of all, having done that, we then had the best meditation session that we've had all week, and we had a really wonderful feeling of being the universe, and that is like, in a way, the gifts of like when we are forced to do the work that we had to do. And then we come back to sit down to the Zoom meeting, and Sunny's there, and they're like, look, I want to say, and it's gone, and that's what I mean, it's gone, and like they want to talk about what had happened. And they did, and it was really helpful, actually. But it's like, we're not seeing that conflict anymore. That conflict has disappeared from the universe, as far as we're concerned. And which I guess is what Mary's saying. You don't see it. Even, you don't see it anymore, kind of.
Yeah, and if you do see it, you're totally not attached to it. It's like, yeah, there's something that's playing in that movie theater over there, but I'm going to go see a comedy instead because I like the vibe, and it's knowing you have all those choices within this thing as to how are you going to perceive it, but it's based on changing those core beliefs so that now you're seeing through that lens, and that lens is always on the positive side of things. It's not ignoring the quote unquote negative. It's just not perceiving it as negative. It's perceiving it as opportunity and experience that you can then choose or not choose to participate in.
Yeah,
it's just being offered like a smorgasbord. And so and if we look at our definitions of things when we're having the blocks of making these changes that we feel so strongly that we want to make, look at your own internal reactions to a word. Like you may say, I am God. And then in the back of your mind, you hear, no, you're not. That's sacrilege, or, whatever it is. Pay attention to that stuff. Pay attention to even the phrases that you use after you leave this group or this interaction, and you go back to the quote unquote real world. Or do you even call that the real world anymore? It's all in our definitions. If we see peace as being kind of boring or empty or scaring, or, all of those things make a difference in how quickly we're going to embrace this new state of being and these new beliefs.
Yep. Very good. All right. Shall we try to get one more reading in? Or is there more discussion? Okay. Last one of the day. The extension of the kingdom. Only you can limit your creative power, but God wills to release it. He no more wills you to deprive yourself of your creations than he wills to deprive himself of his. Do not withhold your gifts to the sonship, or you withhold yourself from God. Selfishness is of the ego, but self-fullness is of spirit. because that is how God created it. The Holy Spirit is in the part of the mind that lies between the ego and the spirit,
Hmm.
mediating between them, always in favor of the spirit. To the ego, this is partiality, and it responds as if it were being sided against. To spirit, this is truth, because it knows its fullness and cannot conceive of any part from which it is excluded. Spirit knows that the awareness of all its brothers is included in its own, as it is included in God. The power of the whole sonship and of its creator is therefore Spirit's own fullness, rendering its creations equally whole and equal in perfection. The ego cannot prevail against a totality that includes God, and any totality must include God.
Hmm.
Everything he created is given all his power because it is part of him and shares his being with him. Creating is the opposite of loss, as blessing is the opposite of sacrifice. Being must be extended. That is how it retains the knowledge of itself. Spirit yearns to share its being as its creator did. Created by sharing, its will is to create. It does not wish to contain God, but wills to extend his being.
Hmm.
The extension of God's being is Spirit's only function. Its fullness cannot be contained, any more than can the fullness of its creator. Fullness is extension. The ego's whole thought system blocks extension, and thus blocks your only function. It therefore blocks your joy, so that you perceive yourself as unfulfilled. Unless you create, you are unfulfilled. But God does not know unfulfillment, and therefore you must create. You may not know your own creations, but this can no more interfere with their reality than your unawareness of your spirit can interfere with its being.
Okay.
The kingdom is forever extending because it is in the mind of God. You do not know your joy because you do not know your own self-fullness. Exclude any part of the kingdom from yourself, and you are not whole. A split mind cannot perceive its fullness and needs the miracle of its wholeness to be dawned upon it and heal it. This reawakens the wholeness in it and restores it to the kingdom because of its acceptance of wholeness. The full appreciation of the mind's self-fullness makes selfishness impossible and extension inevitable. That is why there is perfect peace in the kingdom. Spirit is fulfilling its function, and only complete fulfillment is peace. Your creations are protected for you because the Holy Spirit, who is in your mind, knows of them and can bring them into your awareness whenever you will let him. They are there as part of your own being because your fulfillment includes them. The creations of every son of God are yours, since every creation belongs to every one, being created for the sonship as a whole. You have not failed to increase the inheritance of the sons of God, and thus have not failed to secure it for yourself. Since it was the will of God to give it to you, he gave it forever. Since it was his will that you have it forever, he gave you the means for keeping it, and you have done so. Disobeying God's will is meaningful only to the insane. In truth, it is impossible. Your self-fullness is as boundless as God's. Like his, it extends forever and in perfect peace. Its radiance is so intense that it creates imperfect joy and only the whole can be born of its wholeness. Be confident that you have never lost your identity and the extensions which maintain it in wholeness and peace. Miracles are an expression of this confidence. They are reflections of both your proper identification with your brothers and of your awareness that your identification is maintained by extension. The miracle is a lesson in total perception. By including any part of totality in the lesson, you have included the whole. All right. Well, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
this
is.
course is so reassuring, isn't it? In truth, you know, it only said, it's like we make such a, we make it feel, so, we make it sound so difficult, we make it feel so difficult, and yet, yeah, it's only ever saying, hey, everything's all right.
Everything's all right. Yeah.
You can't get it wrong. You haven't messed up. You've never done anything wrong. You're perfect. You're wonderful. You're still in heaven. Don't worry. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reflecting now on Mother Teresa, and a friend of mine often says this. And, you know, when you think about that example that, you know, what she did for people, and she had this one, hopefully I get it right. It was pretty brief. And they asked her, so what is it about the work you do that's so rewarding and compelling? And she says, I find God disguised as millions of beings. She sees God in everyone.
Mhm.
And I thought, wow. Can I get to the point where I could maybe see 1 in 10, you know, or whatever? I'm exaggerating, but
We
you know
think
what
it's
I
all
mean.
or nothing, Tim.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said because my
Sorry, we said we think it's all or nothing.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're still taking baby steps sometimes, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, we can't see God in some people and not in others. It's like that is the baby step is from thinking that it's possible for one person to be, I don't know, it can't even say it because the words don't make sense. One person to be more God than another person, God to be
No.
in you know, my granddaughter, who's the most adorable creature on earth, and not in Donald Trump, who is less adorable. You know, it's like it's all or nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I think we do get those moments that we see it, right? We get those moments, those aha moments where we're like, oh, yes, this is
Yeah.
it. And it renews that faith. It renews that faith in the wonder and in the presence of it everywhere, which is really helpful
Yeah, it is.
on the path and on the
Mm.
journey. So, yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Any other comments before we wrap it up today? No, not so much. All right. I am here next week. I'll be here. Let's see, take a
Oh.
look at my calendar quick. I am here next week and the week after. So I will be here January 1st, in case anybody is wondering.
and you'll be here on
And
Christmas Day.
I will be
It'll be
here on
Christmas Day?
Christmas Day.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll be here. Yeah.
Look at that.
We're spending the day with Sunny online, so it doesn't make a lot of difference actually, just coming in here. That would be great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it'll be fun, right? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not do it? So,
Mm.
yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Bring
yeah.
the
And
laptop out by the
none of us are
Christmas tree.
Christians after all, are we?
No.
Yeah.
Everything and nothing, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, everyone, have an
Okay.
amazing day, and I'll see you next week.
Thank
See
you all
ya.
so much.
So much.
All
Thank
right.
you, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
bye.
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 Mm.